In this GlowShift Gauges installation video, we'll show you how to install a GlowShift 7-Color Series diesel gauge package into your 98-02 Dodge Ram 24-valve Cummins. When you're ready, grab your tools and we'll meet you in the garage. The additional accessories featured in this video will make installation easier and can be purchased through our website. For the purpose of this install, we'll be using a 2000 Dodge Ram Cummins to install our gauges. For safety, disconnect both negative battery terminals before starting any work on the vehicle. If you purchased a boost bolt thread adapter, start by removing the intake bolt next to the intake manifold. Wrap the boost line adapter with Teflon tape and place it into the thread adapter. Tighten using a 16mm and 11mm wrench. Place the adapters into the manifold and tighten to 120 inch-pounds using a torque wrench. Place the female brass fitting onto one end of the boost line, followed by the brass ferrule fitting. Ensure the ferrule fitting is facing downward to prevent any leaks. Then connect it to the boost line adapter and tighten using a 10mm wrench. Run the boost line to the firewall, keeping it clear of any moving parts. To install the exhaust temperature probe, use a punch to mark the location on the exhaust manifold where the probe will be installed. Starting with a small drill bit, drill a hole in the manifold, increasing the bit size until a size R is reached. Use a shop vac to clean up any metal shavings. Use a 1/8-27 NPT tap to thread the hole. Cutting oil will make threading the hole easier. Use a pen magnet and shop vac to remove any metal shavings that may have fallen into the manifold. Apply anti-seize to the EGT sensor adapter, attach it to the manifold, and tighten using a 14mm wrench. Insert the exhaust temperature probe into the bolt. Ensure that the depth of the probe is approximately halfway into the manifold and tighten. Connect the braided EGT gauge harness wire to the sensor harness wire and run the opposite end to the firewall, keeping clear of any moving parts. If you purchase the gauge package that comes with a fuel pressure gauge, to install the fuel pressure sensor, start by placing a drain pan under the vehicle and using the fuel filter drain valve to drain the fuel from the filter housing. Locate the factory fuel filter BANJO bolt on the bottom of the housing and remove it using a wrench. Apply Teflon tape to the 90-degree fitting and snubber valve. We're using a 90-degree fitting for proper clearance of the sensor. Attach the snubber valve to the BANJO bolt and tighten using 18 and 19 millimeter wrenches. Then connect the 90-degree fitting to the snubber valve and tighten using 19 and 15 millimeter wrenches. Place the adapters through the fuel line and into the filter housing. Tighten using a 19 millimeter wrench. Insert the pressure sensor into the 90-degree fitting and tighten using a 22 millimeter wrench. Attach the sensor harness wire and run the opposite end of the wire to the driver's side firewall, keeping clear of any moving parts. To install the transmission temperature sensor, start by applying Teflon tape to the temperature sensor. Place the sensor into the test port adapter and tighten using 14 and 17 millimeter wrenches. Remove the transmission test port plug using a 7/16 wrench. Be sure to use a drain pan to catch any fluid that may drain from the transmission. Place the sensor and adapter into the port and tighten using a 17 millimeter wrench. Attach the female silver connector and the longer rubber cover to one end of the green wire from the gauge wiring harness. And connect it to the white wire from the sensor. Then, attach the male silver connector and short rubber cover to the end of the black wire from the gauge wiring harness. And connect it to the black wire from the sensor. Run both wires to the engine bay, making sure to secure them out of the way of any moving parts. Once all of the sensors have been installed, run all of the sensor wires to the driver's side firewall, keeping clear of any moving parts. Feed all sensor wires through an open grommet in the firewall. Attach a ring terminal to the black ground wire from the transmission temperature sensor and connect it to a reliable grounding source in the engine bay. Remove the factory pillar from the truck and disconnect the speaker wires. Measure 4 1/4 inches from the top of the new pod and place a strip of tape. Then measure 1 3/4 inches across the pod and place a mark. Using a 3/16 drill bit, drill a hole in the pod for the mounting screw. Apply Teflon tape to the fitting on the back of the boost gauge and attach the boost line adapter. Tighten using a 13mm wrench. Feed the wires for the boost gauge through the pod and insert the gauge into the cup. Next, place the EGT and transmission temperature gauges into the remaining cups and insert the power harnesses into each gauge. Using the yellow wire from the wiring harness, connect all of the yellow wires together. Using the red wire from the wiring harness, connect all of the red wires together. Using the orange wire from the wiring harness, connect all of the orange wires together. Using the black wire from the wiring harness, connect all of the black wires together. Use zip ties to clean up the wires. Place the included white pillar clip onto the pillar. Feed the sensor harness wires up through the dash and to the pod location. Using a wire connector, connect the green wire from the transmission temperature sensor to the green wire from the gauge power harness wire. Plug the EGT sensor harness into the back of the gauge. To connect the boost line to the back of the boost gauge, run the boost line through the pod. Place the brass nut over the line, followed by the brass ferrule fitting. Ensure the ferrule fitting is facing upward to prevent any leaks. Place the boost line into the adapter and tighten the nut onto the gauge using a 10mm wrench. Remove the speaker and cover from the factory pillar and place them into the new pod. Feed the power wires from the pod down through the dash and place the pod onto the pillar. Use the included screw to secure the pod. For the purpose of this install, we'll be powering our gauges using expandable circuits, which can be purchased through our website. In order to test for power, reconnect the negative battery terminals. Remove the kick panel and run the power wires from the gauges to the fuse box location. Using a test light, locate a fuse that receives constant 12-volt power. Locate a fuse that receives 12-volt power when the ignition is turned on. Attach the first expandable circuit to the yellow wire from the gauges. Remove the constant 12-volt fuse, place it into the circuit, and place the circuit into the fuse's location in the fuse box. Attach the second expandable circuit to the red wire from the gauges. Remove the 12-volt ignition fuse, place it into the circuit, and place the circuit into the fuse's location in the fuse box. To enable the dimming feature, remove the dash trim to gain access to the headlight switch wiring. Remove the headlight switch from the dash and use a test light to locate a wire that receives 12-volt power when the headlights are turned on. Attach a wire tap to the headlight wire. Then, attach a wire connector to the orange wire from the gauges and plug it into the tap. Reinstall the headlight switch and dash panel. Locate a clean, reliable grounding source and connect the black ring terminal wire from the gauges. Reinstall the kick panel. Power your gauges to ensure that everything is working properly by starting the vehicle. You've now successfully installed your GlowShift diesel gauge package into your truck. If you have any questions, concerns, or comments, please contact us at 1-888-GS-GAUGE, and we'll see you on the road.